Greetings viewers and welcome back. We got a little bit of a different video today. We're going to walk around the shop and we're going to take a look at this WRX. This car showed up yesterday. It is in really rough condition. Already talked to the owner. He was fine with me videoing the car. He said he got it for like $1,800. But it runs and drives, so I mean that's a big plus. It does have some nice version 7 wheels, but a lot of issues with the car. I'm actually going to go through and do a full inspection of it for him. Sorry about the shaky camera here. I'm hand holding the camera right now, doing a little bit of walk around. He brought the car to me wanting coilovers installed and new shifter joint and a short shifter, but the coilovers he got were some El Cheapos off of Amazon, and they are not going to work at all. I'll put some pictures in where you can see, but I installed them straight up and they barely would go in the rear. Finally got it on there. Bolted the wheel up. Wheel was contacting the coilover. The suspension was in a bind. The control arms were pointing upwards instead of downwards from the center of the car, which, control arms should always point down from the central mounting point on the front of the body, or the trailing arm should point down towards the wheel, and the control arm should point down towards the wheel. But they were actually up-angled. So that wasn't going to work, so told him, hey, fitment issue on these things. So we said, well, we'll try adjusting them all the way out, and these have no limit markings for safe limit for turning the collar down, and I don't want to go too far on them. And all the fasteners are really cheap feeling. I was kind of worried I was going to snap off the bolts just torquing with the spec, which spec is 20 Newton meters for the top hats, the strut mounts, and 200 Newton meters for the strut bolts. So turned the coilover all the way out, and it was still contacting the wheel, and was really slammed still. So we decided to go ahead and take them back off. I put the factory struts back on the rear. I believe these have lowering springs already installed because they're red and kind of rusty. But yeah, so we put those back on there. I advised him the probably best route right now, we're going to get a pack of KYB struts and just put new KYB struts on it, and probably replace the strut mounts because they're all original as far as I can tell. There's a lot of dry rot and cracking in the front ones. The rear ones didn't look great. Had a whole bunch of headaches trying to get these things back in after I got them out because it has an aftermarket strut tower brace in the trunk. We got part of the bumper here missing. There's a lot of paint damage, of course, but it was an $1,800 car. The fact that it runs and drives is pretty astounding. The customer said he had already gone ahead and replaced spark plugs and replaced the rocker cover gaskets because it was leaking quite a bit of oil. And I do have fresh oil stains here under the car, so not sure where those are coming from exactly. We'll have to look. But it looks like it's got a rear main leak, maybe oil air separator leak. I see that it's got a reman alternator on it because it's nice and shiny. I advised him to find a factory air box. These cone filters do not work on WRXs. It's got an aftermarket strut tower brace on the front. We got a relay wired in randomly just sitting here beside the fuel filter and intercooler for some reason. Told him to find a factory recirculation valve and get rid of this stupid blow-off valve. What else? I'm going to check the time belt because I don't know if that's been done. I think this car's got like 220,000 miles on it. It's been rode hard and put up wet more than a few times. The factory turbo inlet is starting to come apart, which they all do near the turbo flange. They get oil soaks in and makes them soft, and they start ripping. That I've not seen before. I don't think that's built for this car. I think it's just a piece of rubber silicone hosing that someone put on there because it's like over top of the mass air sensor right here. That does say Cobb there, so it is a Cobb part for the intake. It does have a Cobb access port on it. What else? We'll go underneath and do like a full rundown of the car. Of course, there's some dents and dings and all that good stuff. But it needs ball joints and tie rod ends, steering racks leak, all kind of stuff. Like I said, we'll go in that a little bit later. So aside from the coilovers, his shifter bushings are completely shot, and so is the shifter, the universal joint that's in there, which I did a video on years ago, and it was really poor quality. So I really should have taken the opportunity to reshoot that video. But you already like took half of the linkages apart. There's the new universal. And we've got some polyurethane bushings from Cartboy and a Cartboy short shifter. More bushings. I'll be putting those in. Might film it, might not. Like I said, I've already knocked those stubborn roll pins out, and that was the worst part of that video. What people told me was that I didn't film that well, and it's extremely hard to film that on jack stands in the driveway. I had a better line of sight to it with the car on the lift, so I really honestly should have filmed that, but I didn't. So sorry about that. But I mean, it's pretty simple. You've got a roll pin inside a roll pin. Basically, you take a small roll pin punch and drive this roll pin out, and then you take a big roll pin punch and drive this roll pin out. It's not really rocket surgery. So yes, I got some Icon wrenches up here. Been using them the last 2 weeks, like I said in the tool videos. Snap-on wrenches up here for a comparison video I might shoot later. Done some reorganization to the cart since you saw the cart tour video. Added some new things, bought some new things, but all this is the Icon 1/2 inch, 3/8, and 1/4, which I all have now. And everything else is pretty much the same. We've got the 1/2 inch Icon ratchet in here. Been using it a little bit. Been using the 3/8 and the 1/4 a lot more. So far, I like the 1/4, but it's been binding up on me. I know that Harbor Freight had a recall this week for the Flex Head 3/8. Every one of these ratchets I opened up, the 1/4, the 3/8 here, and the 1/2, they were almost all dry inside. They didn't have very much oil or grease at all in them. But one thing I do like about this 1/4 is the handle's got a lot of bulk in it, so when you're ratcheting really quick, you can fling it, and it's got some more weight to it, so you can get some more inertia with flinging it than like my Snap-on T72. I don't think there's anything really new in there or there. I reorganized the wrench drawer. Now I've got all the Icon wrenches in here. These are the ratcheting long handle metrics. I've got the add-on 20 to 24 big wrenches. That's my Mac torque adapters, my Mac flex head ratcheting wrenches, and the Icon stubbies. I use these a little bit more. Like I said in the first video, they're not something you use every day, but they're handy to have when you need them. And what else? Yeah, power tool drawer still full of Milwaukee. I brought my drill over here because I had to drill that broken cam cap out of that engine the other day. If you saw the community post, that was not fun, but at least it came out really easily. Did order the new M12 right angle grinder. Hopefully that'll be here sometime next week. Might make a video on it. Super excited for that. I've got my trusty old made in Japan Blue Point pneumatic, but to have it battery powered would be awesome. And of course, got the little 3M bristle disc on there, which is what's recommended for Subarus. What else we got going on? Over here, we've got a 97 Outback EJ25D. Let the sirens go by. Anyway, so over here we got an EJ25D out of this 97 Outback. Been doing basically a short block up rebuild on it. Unfortunately, I have not been filming it. I wish I had, but it just hasn't happened. Originally, blown head gasket was the issue. It blew back here on number 1 or number 3, I can't remember. I've got a little video I'll put in of doing the cylinder leakage test and finding out, confirming that it was a blown head gasket. But done a full gasket kit on it. We're waiting on timing belt and water pump to come in, and we're waiting on the half moon seals for the back of the cams at this point. Other than that, it's about ready to put back together. So need the little half moons. I've already got the rocker cover gaskets. Already got all that cleaned up nice, ready to go back on. Sounds like the world's coming to an end with all the sirens going by. Got an aluminum oil air separator plate out of my pile because this one still has a plastic one on it. So that's getting upgraded. I'm not going to put the steel one on it. We put quite a bit of money into this car. It's a $600 car. It's actually one of the guys at the shop's car. So I think we got maybe 20. I think we'll have maybe 2,600 in it all together. The clutch was shot too. We're waiting on a clutch kit too. But basically got everything cleaned up in here. Need to clean up the subframe a little bit more. And yeah, just waiting on those few parts so we can get this engine back together and in the car. So back onto the WRX. I think I might film rebuilding the shifter from here, but we shall see. I might try to film the inspection as well for you guys. So that said, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the shifter out of here, or grab the console out, and then we'll go through putting the new bushings and universal joint on. And I might film reinstalling it, but not sure, because there is actually one piece missing, the bushings for the actual shifter itself, where the pinch bolt goes through the shifter for the shift rod. He does not have those yet, and the ones in the car are completely gone. I mean, this thing was bad. I about ran over a guy yesterday pulling the car into the shop because I thought I was in neutral and I was still in first gear, or second gear, and stalled it out. But it is bad. I don't know how the guy was driving it. Also, there is a header and catless up pipe I will not be installing. I'm probably going to direct him to go see my buddies in Rock Hill at Shift Fast and get them to put that on and tune it at the time, although that's a ways off. We've got a lot of maintenance to catch up on this car to get it back ready before we start tuning it or upping the horsepower. Oh, also, before I forget, this is the old torque converter out of the 2010 Outback that I did the torque converter replacement in. I spent way too much time the other day with the old cutoff wheel and grinder opening this bugger up, but did cut into this torque converter, and not sure the order I'm going to release the videos, but we're going to have a video on going into that torque converter and checking out how they work and what's inside them, and possibly trying to show what failed in that torque converter. All right, guys, we've got the shifter out of the car, and as I mentioned, this thing is beat. But that's all well and fine because it's about to get some much needed love. We've got the new Cartboy rear bushing here mount. We've got Cartboy polyurethane bushings for the front here. We've got a brand new OE Subaru universal joint, part number 35047AC030. And we've got our Cartboy short shifter. So, like I said before, the only part we're missing is the bushings here. This one does not have its factory bushings, so we're going to put it back together without those bushings. He can just put those in when they come in. So first things first, this thing is disgustingly nasty. The issue here is the tail housing seal on this transmission is leaking, as well as the seal for the shift rod. So there's been lots of gear oil blowing back on this whole assembly. So to start things off, we'll get this thing cleaned up. There, much better. We got this all cleaned up. So we'll go ahead and remove this factory bushing, which you normally have to cut or tear out because it's a one piece. The aftermarket bushing is two piece, so you basically just sandwich it in, much easier. This thing's really stiff, so I'll probably take this off camera. We need to take the old joint out of here. Should be 13 mil. All right, so old joint out. A little clean and new joint. Back in. Back on, tighten that back up. Just snug it down. You don't want it too tight because you want the joint to still be able to move. But you don't want it so loose that the nut comes loose. That'll be good right about there. Yeah, that was pretty wore out on the stock joint. So we've got that done. Now we need to beat out this bushing. All right, old bushings have been knocked out. We're gonna put the new cartboy bushings in here. Just slide in, like so. Now we need to take the bolt loose here and install the short shifter. First we're gonna get rid of this old rear shifter bushing. Chunk it. So 12 millimeter. Pull that out. So go ahead and get the snap ring off down here. So we can pull our shifter out and put the new shifter in. All right, snap rings out. Push the cup through. Pull our shifter out of the cup. I'm going to put some grease in here, clean this up. All right, so we're going to put some grease in our cleaned up shifter mount. Pop in the Cartboy shifter. We're going to stick it back through, put our snap ring back on. All right, snap rings back in and flip it back over. Put our bolt back through and our shifter will be ready to put back in the car. All right, so now our shifter is reassembled, rebuilt, and ready to go back into the car. Hopefully this will make for a much firmer experience than the wore out, sloppy old shifter. Well, that didn't go quite as expected. Got the car back together. The owner of the car actually came up here while I was getting it back together. So I didn't get to film any more on the car, unfortunately, for you guys. But we already have a plan of attack for this car. And he's basically decided that I'm going to be the one primarily working on the car. So I got him a list up. I'm going to get him some prices on labor and parts, and he will be bringing it back, and we will be doing future repairs on this car and future videos on this car. And so yeah, didn't get to go on the rundown. I might put a rundown on the screen at the end of the video for you to see exactly what I found wrong with it. But sorry for the shaky camera. I'm not used to doing this whole vlogging kind of thing, holding the camera like this and looking at myself, but yeah, so let's not. So now it is nighttime. I talked way too long. Need to go ahead and get all my tools cleaned up, organized, and back in the toolbox, and lock the shop up and head to the house because it's like 8 o'clock and it's 7:35. So with that said, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.